Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here. Last patch, the model actually predicted quite well for 2.5, at least the characters that were supposed to rerun like Black Swan and stuff like that. In this video, we're going to be doing and extrapolating for the next 3 patches, all the way up to like 2.8 for any of you who wanted it. There was quite a few requests, so let's do it in this video as well. We don't waste any time on this channel, so let's go ahead and like just jump right into it. What is this red thing? This is basically a second rerun that has already appeared. I don't factor in the model a third rerun. It has never happened yet. So red means it's like totally obsolete. I have here Topaz and Ambi. So red means I'm not even like predicting at all. At this current stage also, I am not predicting when a second rerun is coming back. Because it's still very uncertain. Like, we only had it at one patch, and one patch alone doesn't form a trend, so I didn't include that in the model as well. So straight away you have seen like whoever came back once already straight away grayed out. You could have it in future, which we'll touch on as well, but it's not primarily factored in the model, so it's like adjusted based on human sensors and human gut feel and stuff like that, which is a little bit towards the end. We'll talk about adjustments. So what that is leads us to something like this. We have characters like Dr. Ratio, Akirion, Aventurine, Boot Hill, Firefly, and whatever not characters that have recently came about that is coming up too. So let's talk first about some of the variables that we are working with. My guess here, and the first thing I want to tell you about is the first variable that we're working with is, my guess is 2.8 is the last patch of 2.x. And then after that, we're going into 3.0. This is a total wild guess based on the trend we had in Genshin Impact as well. So Genshin Impact's first patch went all the way up to 1.6 as well. And then 2.0 came just after 1.6. And based on the similar trend, it didn't come in like 2.6. So 2.6 wasn't the end of 2.0 for Inazuma in Genshin Impact. And they actually went all the way, I believe, to 2.8 or 2.7. Any Genshin Impact like super giga chats here, do remind us in the chat. But from what I think it's going to be 2.8 all the way, and then 3.0 likely will come after, which does affect some human intervention, which we'll do towards the end. But this patch, I'm going to be predicting all the way up to 2.8, which likely should be the last patch in Honkai Star Rail for 2.x. So what are the variables that we are working with? The first thing is, after accounting for everything that has happened, we adjusted and updated the model. We are still sitting at an average rerun cycle of 6 months. So if you miss a character, what this tells you is you're probably going to still see the character in 6 months time. On average, characters rerun on average 6. There are some exceptions, like fastest rerun 5 here, which is Robin, who just like self-advanced herself, which is like super fast. In general, you can see like significantly faster than average, because this is like what? At this point, it's like 3 months plus, like barely 3 months plus, which is super fast. It's like half the average time at this point. So super fast. Longest run is 13. I believe 13 is Qingyuan. Qingyuan took the longest time to come back. That is practically almost a year, right? We have 39 weeks, which is about 10 months to estimate it as well. Put in some standard deviation for any of you guys who like want to know the deviation of things in terms of probability and whatnot. But for most people, likely you don't really care too much. So I have some variables that I built into the model and predictions, and we already have the results. Let me share with you some of the assumptions first, which is very important because they will affect the end result as well. Number one, second rerun, it seems tight currently to the other characters on the banner. We are uncertain in frequency, so I'm not modeling in the second rerun, which is why you have those like gray boxes and stuff. Your Abundance and Perseverance units generally take much longer to run, like 11 or 12 cycles. Your popular DPSs come back in 7 or 8 cycles. For example, in the past, Jing Liu is like 8. You have characters, for example, like to some extent, Zila was popular in the past, is 8. Imbibitor Lune was popular in the past, 7. So these are some factors that let us build into the model. Popular DPS 7 and 8, which will affect the model's predictions as well. Harmony characters, so far, Runmei as well as Sparkle, both 7. Robin is 5, so they are generally the fastest characters to come back in the game so far. Nihility characters, so far we have like 1, which is like Silver Wolf, that is like a supportive kind of unit, which models together with like Jiao Qiu. So that's like 8 so far. So 1 doesn't really form a trend, so I didn't like put it in brackets here. But come, let us do our predictions now for 2.6 and beyond. Based on the model's prediction, and of course we know we will only have Rapper in 2.6, so we know that there are a total of 3 reruns likely going to happen, most likely. So for the first part here, I'm just going to predict like 1 each banner based on the model, and I'll tell you some assumptions that we have right at the end also. So 2.6, basically what is being done right now in the model is its basis is an Akirion in the first half. Popular DPS generally come back in like 6 or 7, 8 cycles, and Akirion is actually very popular and she hasn't been around for a while. So my guess here, it makes a lot of sense 2.6 is going to be, the model predicts it there, and based on like human thoughts, right, it makes a lot of sense. Why are they rerunning only Rapper? Because they are likely going to throw in a super popular DPS. I think Akirion is likely coming back in 2.6, more or less for sure. If you guys are wondering whether to like save your tickets or not, they usually slap you with the strongest banners in the start, so you don't have time to save. They are unlikely to put her in the second half, and that's what the model is also going to say, because it's closer to the 7-8 cycle as we predicted for the model so far. Another character that likely is going to come back in the third half, and we are modeling this based on a character like Jingyuan, who is really very niche. You can see like characters that take longer to come back. It's like, for example, over here in the past, we have characters like Jingyuan, who took like 13 cycles, who is relatively niche in his aspect, not the most universal DPS that can be slotted in every team. So Doctor Ratio is modeled based on that, and it fits in very nicely. So I think a Doctor Ratio in the second half of 2.6 does make a lot of sense as well. So you have like 13 banners here at this point, and then you will see like a Doctor Ratio here. So that is my prediction based on the model for 2.6 and 2.6B, first half and second half respectively. There is supposed to be one more in this part. I'll talk about it in a bit, but based on model predictions over here, the other popular character, if we model it, is likely going to be Firefly, which matches very nicely with the 6-7 cycle. So that actually predicts a Firefly coming in 2.7. Popular DPS generally run in like 7 or 8 cycles. So likely Firefly is going to come back in 2.7A for any of you who are like planning, wanting to pull for a rerun. And of course, another variable that we have, which everything like fits in super nicely. That's the beautiful part about like all these assumptions that we have so far. Everything is like falling into place unless whoever spins up the history, because history doesn't predict the future. It can only guide us to make plans, which is what we are trying to do here on this channel. So 6, 7, 8, and then we extrapolate here for 6A, 2.6A, 2.6B, 2.7A, and in the second half, it makes a lot of sense for Adventure to come back in the 2.7B, and then it falls very nicely. So we have an Akirion, Doctor Ratio into a Firefly, into an Aventurine, and the last two at the back of 2.8. Of course, as we go on, right, it's a little bit more blurry because the model is better at predicting closer to whatever it is, like today's cycle here. So based on the model, another character, because we are done with like all these guys, we are not predicting like those gray areas, right? Except for 2.6, which will come back in a little bit. So for Boot Hill, likely, let's just stretch it out. Let's just say we pulled all these like over here so far. We pull all these guys because we're like not predicting them yet, right? Whoops, the thing is like absolutely messing it up itself over here at this point. But extending this here, Excel, the Google Sheet is like crazy. So let's just pull it all the way up. And the reason why like I straight away just dragged the 5 is no character has come back in 5 cycles over here yet, right? So it makes no sense for any unit currently in the game to come back in less than 5 cycles. So 5 is a given. So at this point, it's like it will look something like this. 5, 5, 5, 5, because it hasn't broken the trend. No character has like came back faster yet. So that is why I like immediately just slotted in the 5. Since we already predicted in some of the characters already, we can go ahead and like drag these out as well, so that we have a very nice cycle. We can see all the trends here. For 2.8A, my prediction is going to be actually a Boot Hill in the first half. He is a relatively niche character, yet is also in between like a decent, popular in the meta kind of character. He's like in between, right? So I think 10 is actually modeled on another character that is like relatively popular but also quite niche, which will be Black Swan, which is a 9 cycle return. Boot Hill ±1, I think is quite fair for the model to justify modeling a Boot Hill together with like a Black Swan popularity, because Black Swan plays into like DOT. Boot Hill is like also relatively niche, play into like Brick, but they are still relatively strong in their game states, unlike like other more niche characters, which are either for free or maybe a bit more unique in that sense. The last part, 2.8B, the question here is like a lot of characters we have already taken out, right? Which pretty much leaves us with a very small pool of characters over here, which is like Jade, Yunli, Jiao Qiu, Fei Xiao, Ling Sha, and Rapper. And out of all of these, in like the next half, if let's say we like drag it on, because Boot Hill is coming in the first half, the only characters that are predicted left in the banner will either be characters, for example, like these 5 over here. And based on like my prediction of what we think, like with the model's help as well, out of all these 5, I think Jade is like relatively niche. She should be modeled after a character like 13 cycles. So I don't think Jade will be the top pick. My gut feel is telling me that it's likely going to be Jiao Qiu coming back. Yunli is also like relatively niche, so coming back too early is also a bit of a shocker. I think likely Jiao is going to come back in 2.8B based on like the model trends, giving Jade a similar proxy to a character like Jing Yuan, Doctor Ratio, which is a slightly longer cycle. Yunli also a slightly longer cycle, but 9 is like not super early, not super late. Fei Xiao, at this point, she's only going to be like a 7, so she could come back in like 3.0 and stuff, unless they plan to like sell her early, force your resources, and this is where like our human intervention stage starts, which is adjusting the model to account for the fact that we talked about in start, that 3.0 when it comes, what Hoivers always like to do is sell you banger banners and want to like empty our wallets for the Penacony cast in 2.6. So although it's based on a model that Fei Xiao shouldn't come, I think they might actually like rerun Fei Xiao before Penacony, like the 2.x runs. So you could see Fei Xiao come back instead of Jiao. So the last part here is a bit grey. We will update our model as we go along based on like when we have like more clearer visibility based on whatever we have predicted above. And in terms of 2.6A, 2.6B, as you can see here, no one actually fits into a 2.6B cycle in terms of a first rerun coming for first time. The only one is Firefly. So if they wanted to really like suck it to the player base, they can put Firefly in a 2.6B patch, 2.6A as Akirion, and then like double stack us straight away. That's one thing that they could do. Otherwise, it actually makes a lot of sense that they open the last slot to a rerun in the previous characters. Like the other characters who haven't came back for a while, they might slot them like in the past to bring like someone back who hasn't came back from like the second rerun. One option that they can do, and I think it is a very high probability, is to sell us a meta that works pretty decently with a lot of the characters in the game state, DPS that can benefit a lot of people as well. If you have Akirion, you have Doctor Ratio come back, a debuffing unit might be interesting to see, or perhaps they could go around with like a Harmony, bring back a Harmony debuffer, which makes sense that, for example, why is Doctor Ratio moving? For example, a character like Runmei could be coming out. I think a character that comes out is likely maybe Runmei in the second rerun. Otherwise, probably they will give us like a debuffing kind of unit like Silver Wolf to come back. Maybe they will slap in a Silver Wolf, for example, in a 2.6B, because at least you can have some debuffing together with like for example, your Akirion and stuff like that. So those are some options that they can do, and that's my opinion, and that's the predictions for these banners. If you appreciate such content, like, comment, and subscribe for more such future content. The model is quite accurate so far in predicting Black Swan's rerun. The quad banner was of course a surprise, but let's see next patch, and you can always return to the channel to check this video out. It'll always be public. Thank you again so much for watching. Check these 2 other videos out if you're also interested in planning your resources, and see you in the next video.